Stop mic.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Let's share my screen. My whole dang screen. Let's get this bread. Okay. Um, so I'm making a new project just to at least make sure I've got that taken care of for the recording's sake. So this is the mono build of Godot 4.0.2 right now, but later versions will probably be supported. Tools C# solution, build, wait for it to be done, and double check the recording's like not dying. Yeah, okay. So that's all cool and good. Now, I guess technically, yeah, uh, I would just do it from the asset lib, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going to do it from the asset lib. There's nothing hugely wrong with it.
Is
It's
it working now?
yeah, the asset lib version should be like actually working.
Okay.
Um, there's just a couple of fixes that are sometimes nice, but not necessary for it to actually work.
I haven't done it yet just because I keep making small particular changes to like just the one that's in my project and
Okay.
I'm building the thing with Qodot and the VR tools with Godot. It's fun.
Oh, BR tools?
VR tools, yeah.
I don't think I've heard of that.
I'll give you a link. Hold on.
that'd be great.
Okay. Only thing I'm going to add in this recording is that it says this whole like error of invalid call, non-existent new in base C# script. It just means C# hasn't loaded in the right order yet. So the best solution is just to close and reopen your project.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm kind of thinking of making that a necessary setup step. Is this still enable that? Oh no, come on. Anyway, but it should be fine.
Did you build the solution?
Oh, I mean, I did build the solution before, but now I've built it afterwards, and that seems to go map. Uh, Jeez, come on, don't do me like this. I got the recording all set up and everything. There's no build button. That's usually the case of it's something else is wrong with it.
I mean,
But we're here to make stuff, and it should just kind of check out, I think.
I would restart like save and restart Godot one more. I've had like restarted a few times every time I've done a new project with like the new Godot.
Mhm. I've started to feel like more of an inkling to just call it like Q whatever or like Q3 or Q4
I
for
know trying to pronounce
because if it
Qodot versus Godot, it's like
Cadeau like Quebec. Okay, I think we have. Yeah, okay, restarting it twice. Restarting it twice for some reason actually did it, but yeah. Okay. So what I usually like to do, if you're watching now and you can see it all fine,
yep.
okay. I like to make a definitions folder in my resource stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and go to right click new resource, FGD uh, file. And it should be Godot FGD file is the type, and you could call it like my game underscore FGD. I really encourage the underscore FGD just so you can find it in the filter for the file system. So you can just type in the word FGD and then get everything related to your thing. All the default stuff is here, but I don't really care about it. FGD name should also not be Godot. It should be something else, like my game. There's a bunch of entity definitions in here as well. These are already going to be covered in Godot, so you can sort of kill two birds with one stone. Base FGD files, add one, search for Godot underscore FGD .tres. Just kind of drag that into the base FGD files. So now you're guaranteed to have world spawn definitions and group definitions, and there's no danger of you accidentally deleting like world spawn from building.
Right.
Okay, so Godot FGD is in base FGD files. I might even make this like the default in the next update. Entity definitions. So this is already in Godot FGD, so we can just delete all these guys. The array of 7 elements.
And those will now just be a list of our new original
Yeah,
entities. Okay.
because Godot FGDs have got all the stuff that you need to build maps, just period, plus a few other things for Quake compatibility. But yeah, this array is where our personal definitions are going to go. So I'll go back to definitions, and I'll right-click and make a new resource. And I'll look for, you can just type Godot to get all the new stuff that the plugin adds for you. And you want to make a light, so let's do point class.
And
Godot.
solid class would be if there's like some kind of mesh attached to it.
Yeah, so like a door or a breakable window
Yeah,
or a moving
just
platform.
a point in space.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And a point can actually be any 3D node you want, like period. It just has to extend from spatial. A solid class, I forget what the type is. It's like
Static body 3D probably. I feel like that's
collision.
what-
I think it's anything that extends collision object 3D is actually valid because it can have, even though it's not a node itself, it is inherited by a couple of other things as well, like area,
Yeah.
Static body, rigid body. You could do vehicle body if you really wanted to.
What if I wanted animatable body?
For an animatable body, I would, like, if it's going to interact with physics, I would say character body is what you want.
Maybe I'll ask later.
Oh, oh, wait, right, sorry. I forgot that animatable body is a new one.
Platforms.
Yeah, that would work though, yes.
Yeah, because it makes for moving platforms, like laterally moving platforms,
Mhm.
I need that because it confers the
Quick question.
physics.
Yeah. What's your question?
Is this going to be in documentation or no? No.
I
Is it already?
It is kind of already in the documentation, but we're gonna improve that.
My plan is
Cool.
to use this video to then break it into a bunch of smaller looped clips
Mhm.
with clearer text. So yeah, that's basically
Cool.
like what my agenda is soon.
Mhm.
Asterisk.
So, Qodot. Cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna finish today. Is that a window? No. I'm going to finish adding a point class. Double click on that, and I'm just gonna call it like, I don't know, mylight underscore points. Underscore points a pretty good name for searching for like just your point classes as well.
So, sorry, just in definitions, we have one that's for the entire game, and then we have other FGD files that are going to be like put into the array of my game FGD.
Yes. So
You're setting up? Okay.
yeah, the name Godot FGD point class is a bit weird. It's more like this is a point class and it goes inside the FGD.
Mhm.
The FGD file is your game's entity definition. But I'm just doing it one thing at a time. So yeah, this
Got
is
it.
this is the entity, the underscore points. This is your list of definitions, the underscore FGD.
Which is kind of an exporter also, like has that export button.
Yeah, it does have this export button, but this actually is not the thing you need to get it working in TrenchBroom. That's the config folder tool, which I'll show later after all this.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to make the config folder tool like way easier to use in Godot 3.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm gonna double click on the mylight underscore point and open this window in the inspector. So I guess two things are pretty important. You need a class name for TrenchBroom to call this entity by something. So you could just call this light or like mylight or whatever you want it to be. I think light is actually used by another thing in the Godot FGD, so that's why I've been hesitant to just say light. So I would suggest something like, I don't know, OmniLight, basic light. You can give it a description if you want to, but you don't have to. We're going to ignore base classes because we're not inheriting properties like an ECS, we're just defining stuff. Same with skip Godot internal, it won't show up if you click that. Class properties. So this is only if you care about like editing stuff in code. Since we're just spawning something, I'm actually not going to touch it for now. But if you wanted to add something for the properties dictionary, you choose a string key of like range or whatever you want it to be. And then for value, you've got a couple of options, and that's in the documentation, what each of these options does. So you could have color, or you could have float, you could have Boolean, that kind of stuff. But we're not going to use class properties for this demonstration. Meta properties, you can mess with this if you want to, just to change the color of your entity in the in TrenchBroom, or if you want to change the size of your entity in TrenchBroom to be something else. I'm going to make this guy a little bit smaller. So find the 16 unit cube is a bit huge for me. Okay. And then down here,
-4, are those?
it's an axis aligned bounding box. So
Oh, okay.
it's like here's the far bottom left corner, and here's the close top upper right corner for position and size respectively.
Okay.
And then most important thing for you is node class. Just type the name of the node you want it to be. So I'm going to choose OmniLight 3D, and I'm also going to check that I spelled it correctly.
Yeah.
Don't choose transient node unless you're going to have a script attached to it that does something with the entity before it deletes itself. It's a very specific kind of thing. But yeah, class name for TrenchBroom, description if you want to. You can change meta properties so it looks a little bit different to your other entities, and node class for the node you're spawning in for your point class. So I'm going to hit save. You could also just control S it, and it'll save all your resources for you. I'm going to go back to mygame_FGD. Entity definitions array. Usually it starts empty, so you can add an element, and then click and drag your point entity over into the array. And yeah, so now you got your little point light in here. You've got your Qodot FGD and base FGD files, just so you can build world spawn and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Last step. Just type in config and look for Godot TrenchBroom config folder. Config file doesn't work on its own. That's why I'm trying to phase it out. I'll try to fix that in Godot 4 soon. TrenchBroom games folder.
This is just like the same initial setting up.
Yeah, the same initial setting up. And so you can, if you already know how to do it, great. But find the installation for your TrenchBroom and find the games folder and select this games folder inside your TrenchBroom installation. There's another location where this folder is located on your OS, and that's on the docs too. And last is FGD file. So by default, it includes Godot_FGD. But since we included Godot FGD as a base, we can just replace it with our game's FGD instead, and we're done. So it only needs our FGD as long as we have the Godot FGD in a base, or you could add 2 if you really want to, but I don't really care in this case. Export file. It is, it couldn't find it, so it's creating that directory. I'm gonna open up TrenchBroom, new map. It should be, yeah, my game is here. Open that up. And if I go to entity, yeah, here we are. OmniLight, yeah. This is as opposed to the default light that Godot has, so just know that you can't have 2 entities that have overlapping names as well. They have to be 2 different things. But yeah. And it should be that Oh, I'm gonna save this map. It's, geez, where did FGD tutorial? I'll make a new maps folder. Why not? And yeah, I'm gonna go back to Godot, Godot map, choose my map file, and then very important, Entity FGD, also replace it with your own game's FGD. Full builds, and yeah, there we go. There's the regular light from Godot, but here's our Omni light. It even built as an Omni light, and it called itself Omni light. So yeah, that should.
Every time you make a new, I'm just gonna start calling it Qdo.
You could call it like
Map
Q node or whatever, or Q map node.
Yeah, every time you make one of those, is it going to still default back to the Qdo FGD, and then you have to drag in the new FGD?
Yes, so that's something that I also kind of wish we could change, because right now it does default to a new Godot FGD every time you make a new Godot map node.
Yeah, like I would love it if like that and like that base texture directory, like if there were like an easier front-facing way for people to like change their defaults.
Yeah, because right now it's like you go into the source code and you change the hard-coded line to be something else.
Yeah, and like I'm fine doing that. I just feel like that's like
A little not very friendly to the user.
yeah. Okay, cool.
So that's how you could change it to, yeah, that's how you could change it to your thing. Ideally, make something like a project default thing, I think. Actually, no, we must have removed them. We had some experimental stuff in Q3 for trying to get like certain patterns for like the auto PBR system. So if you export like diffuse, normal, height map, and metallic, if they're all slightly differently named depending on your export program, you could change the pattern that it's looking for so that it could make a material out of those textures for you without having to manually do that for each material.
Yeah, I feel like I do remember seeing a thing for that before.
Yeah, but that's one option that we totally could do as well is, or even like Godot map and then have some sort of like preferences button up here in the menu as well. Interesting.
Well, that's great. That like shows. I feel like it was like one of the things I was having trouble with was how the current docs word how like specifically how it was inheriting the Qdo map FGD like default definitions.
Mhm.
Like I wasn't sure like where I was supposed to put those original ones and like how or whether or not I was supposed to like replace it, but
Yeah.
it all makes sense.
Mhm. But that is a good point because I find this really obnoxious for me personally, especially when we already have like Godot underscore FGD with everything you need in it. This actually like contains stuff that you don't need, but at the same time like gets in the way. And I don't know. We don't need details or illusory, but we do need. Oh, world spawn is in here twice. But like the light base class, like that's taking up a namespace that you might want to define yourself. Personally, I was like, just before you got on, I was working on revamping the light class so it actually works for Godot's for OmniLight. So you can actually like change stuff in the editor and it makes some amount of sense as to how it affects the rest of the light. Because the current example for a light actually doesn't use the system correctly at all. The current, yeah, the current base light doesn't actually use anything as its node class. It's a Godot entity, and then it has an attached script somewhere. Oh, sorry, that's a light base class. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it's a spatial, and it has a script that specifically adds a child into the world to do its bidding for itself, which is totally not how it should be done. And I think it was a hack to.
Anymore, right? Now it's no 3D.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's what I got for the setup for FGDs and all that stuff.